Hey Spidey fans, please be aware that this video contains spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home, so if you don't want to know what happens in the movie, stop watching right now. Okay, now that that's out of the way, we can tell you we were pretty impressed with the 23rd Marvel Cinematic Universe installment. It had everything: great characters, epic action, awesome special effects, humor that works, twists and turns, and even a nod to Marvel zombies. But what about the movie surprised us? Well, you're going to find out as we look into the most surprising moments in Spider-Man Far From Home. The snap, the decimation, the event. Call it what you will, when Thanos snapped his fingers in Wakanda in 2018's Avengers Infinity War, it was absolutely horrific. What it definitely shouldn't be described as is a blip, but that's exactly what we find out it's being referred to in the MCU in Spider-Man Far From Home, which was certainly something of a surprise. Specifically, the blip is how Far From Home describes the fact that the snap occurred and then 5 years later, the victims of it returned without having aged a day, while the rest of the world had moved on and aged half a decade. It resulted in bizarre occurrences happening around the world. May Parker, for example, reconstituted in her old apartment, where she discovered a new family had moved in while she'd been away. But yeah, we'd personally describe the whole thing as a bit more than a blip, but whatever makes the people of the MCU happy, we guess. Tony Stark loved his AIs with acronyms for names. Look no further than Jarvis for proof of that. Jarvis stood for just a rather very intelligent system, in case you were wondering. While the latest one is Edith, which stands for Even Dead, I'm the Hero, and it's a pair of spectacles that comes with complete access to Stark Industries' satellite network, which, in turn, gives the wearer access to all of Stark's gadgets and weapons, every single one of them. It was something of a surprise in Spider-Man Far From Home, therefore, to learn that he'd given Edith to Peter Parker. That's right, Peter now has complete access to and control over all of Stark's technology. We know Stark was extremely fond of Peter, he may have even loved him like a son, but for him to have inherited what is essentially Stark's entire legacy was certainly a shock for fans. Going forward, it should make Parker a real force to be reckoned with in the MCU, assuming he masters it, that is. Spider-Man Far From Home trailers had a suggestion in them that something was going on between Marissa Tomei's May Parker and Jon Favreau's Happy Hogan, but it seemed to be played off as little more than a joke. However, it's made pretty clear in the movie that the two characters are indulging in some bedroom activities with each other, much to Peter's confusion and dismay. May simply hand waves the whole situation away as a summer fling, as if she's something of a player who isn't unfamiliar with the idea of a bedroom buddy, believe it or not, whereas Happy is more infatuated.
Hey, I'll decide if it's no big deal.
It's strange having an Aunt May who's participating in After Dark activities, because we're so used to seeing the character portrayed as an elderly lady whose prime years are well behind them. But Marissa Tomei is a very attractive woman, so why shouldn't her May be enjoying life as she sees fit? Favreau's Happy Hogan might be punching above his weight, but fair play to the guy. He's clearly been needing a bit of action since 2010's Iron Man 2, when he was trying to catch a glimpse of Natasha Romanoff getting undressed in the back of his car. Now, we don't want to criticize Jacob Batalon's Ned Leeds because he's a great guy, so let's just go with the fact that, well, it's fair to say he doesn't really strike us as much of a ladies' man. It was therefore something of a surprise, and a pleasant one, may we add, to find out in Spider-Man Far From Home that he has found himself a girlfriend. That's right, Ned is in a relationship with none other than Betty Brant, the attractive school and former news anchor for Midtown School of Science and Technology, who's played by Angourie Rice. He's extremely socially awkward, which explains his close friendship with Peter Parker, so imagining him with a girlfriend was never really something we previously did, but it's really nice to see him so happy and with a significant other. Even though the relationship ended after the class trip, it would have been nice to see some fun and awkward double dates with Peter, MJ, Ned, and Brant. The inclusion of Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home has excited purist Spidey fans since he was first confirmed as the character Jake Gyllenhaal was playing back in December of 2018. But when the trailers presented him as a superhero from the multiverse, interest peaked even more. But the question was, given that he's infamously a master of illusion, was he really a hero, or was he using his skills in the art of illusion to pose as one to gain recognition and plaudits? Well, Far From Home revealed he was indeed merely posing as one, and that wasn't much of a surprise. What was a surprise, however, is that the character was revealed to be a disgruntled former employee of Tony Stark's at Stark Industries. He had been fired from the company and felt unappreciated, so he used the events of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and in particular, the death of Tony Stark, to exploit the situation and put himself in the heroic spotlight. That's a really sick and twisted thing to do, but fair play to Gyllenhaal, who absolutely nailed the part, which continued the trend of Marvel Studios' Spider-Man movies providing us with great villains after Michael Keaton's Vulture impressed us greatly in 2017's Homecoming. In 2016's Captain America Civil War, we were introduced to Tony Stark's B.A.R.F technology. Yup, another acronym, which stood for Binarily Augmented Retroframing.
God, I gotta work on that acronym.
We were led to believe that it was a technology of Stark's own creation, and that its subsequent appearance would come in Avengers Endgame, but Spider-Man Far From Home debunked all that. Not only did the technology appear in Far From Home and not Endgame, it was also revealed in the Spidey sequel that it had been created by the aforementioned Quentin Beck. When you consider that it was presented as a Stark creation, it kind of makes Beck's annoyance at being overlooked seem somewhat more understandable, although let's be clear, absolutely nothing justifies his behavior in Far From Home. Rather interestingly, this leads us to believe that we may now see B.A.R.F appearing more in the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward, and with Beck seemingly taken care of, for now at least, his bitterness won't get in the way of that. We all know by now that Marvel Studios are fantastic when it comes to interconnecting their Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Well, Spider-Man Far From Home was no different in that regard, but it did some of its linking to other movies in a very cool, unique, and rather surprising way. You see, a bunch of minor characters from previous Iron Man movies were included in Far From Home, namely minor characters who were employees at Stark Industries. Clearly, they'd become just as disgruntled as Beck with Stark and the environment in which they worked for him. That guy Obadiah shouted at in 2008's Iron Man? Yeah, he was there. Remember, that was an actor in a minor role from some 11 years ago and officially known as William Ginter Riva. And another fun fact, the actor was Peter Billingsley, better known as Ralphie from A Christmas Story. Moreover, Jake Gyllenhaal was even digitally added into old scenes involving Stark Industries employees. Now that's great interconnectivity. When it was made clear that Quentin Beck was a fraud, it wasn't only Peter Parker who found out, his friends did too. That made Beck intent on killing them all. And when he failed to do that, he took his anger out on Spider-Man another way, by exposing his secret identity to the world. In the movie's mid-credits scene, the Daily Bugle received doctored footage of the Elemental's attacks, filmed and recorded by Beck, in which he maintained his lie about being a hero, incriminated Parker for his apparent death, and revealed his real name, making it public knowledge. Beck said Spider-Man's real name is Peter Parker. That will have huge implications going forward in the MCU. Crap. That mid-credits scene at the Daily Bugle also revealed something that was simply amazing for MCU fans to see. J.K. Simmons is back as J. Jonah Jameson. This was an incredibly pleasant surprise for fans. Simmons as Jameson is arguably the most perfectly cast character in comic book history. He played the newspaper editor in all three of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies between 2002 and 2007, but it's important to point out that this isn't the same character. MCU Jameson and Raimi Jameson are two different versions of the same character, played by the same actor, but they'll no doubt have the same traits, which will ensure that he'll be an extremely popular character in the MCU going forward. And hey, it's only right that this awesome character gets an equally awesome casting in the flagship comic book movie franchise, right? Arguably the biggest reveal in Spider-Man Far From Home came in the movie's post-credits scene, with the revelation that Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury and Kobe Smulders' Maria Hill had been hiding a secret for the entirety of the movie, that being that they weren't actually Nick Fury and Maria Hill at all. The Skrulls, Talos and his wife Soren, were revealed to have been masquerading as Fury and Hill the whole time, as directed by the real Fury, who was actually in space commanding a Skrull spaceship at the time. This is huge as far as the wider MCU is concerned, because we now know the Skrulls are still present on Earth in modern times, having not previously been seen on screen since the events of Captain Marvel, which took place 3 decades ago. Could it be hinting at the idea that several MCU characters have actually been Skrulls for a while? Could it be hinting at a potential secret invasion movie in Phase 4? Or will it actually be the last we see of the shape-shifting aliens? Who knows? But it was a genuinely surprising twist, maybe even a shocking one that could have genuine repercussions going forward in the franchise. Oh, exciting times lie ahead, guys, in spite of the fact that the Infinity Saga is now officially over. That's the end of our video. Did you enjoy it? Which other moments in Spider-Man Far From Home surprised you? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to ScreenRant for more great videos like this one. See you next time.